What's up, everybody? It's me. I'm back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about folklore because you guys really liked it last time, and so did I. It's a really fun topic, and I have some really cool monsters for you today. But before we talk about that, I am going to ask you, beg you, plead to you to please, if you enjoy this video, like, comment, subscribe, anything that lets the world know that I'm here so that I can continue to talk about these things because I like talking about these things, and it just makes me happy. And don't you want to make this face happy, right? Anyway, last time we talked about monsters that were in my book, and these three that I'm talking about today are also in my book, but they are a different kind of monster. They are kind of more like creatures of the night, I guess, and I just kind of got tired of every creature of the night being some sort of vampire. I feel like that's everywhere, and there are just so many other cool monsters out there in folklore to check out. So I am going to share with you guys three that I found that I think deserve a little bit more love and attention. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into our first monster. Vampire adjacent, but not actually a vampire, is the Camazotz. The name of this monster means death bat in the ancient Mayan Quiche language. And before I continue, I do want to say that anybody who watches this and cringes at the way that I pronounce these things, I apologize, but some of these things are so old that trying to find out how you are supposed to say them was literally impossible. So if you have to, just imagine that I am a wee toddler learning to speak another language, and just pat me on the head and continue to listen to the things that I learned. Please and thank you. I thank you again. Moving on. The Camazotz are bat spirits. And actually, when they first started out, they were bat spirits who were actually more of a god. They ran the night, they stood for death, destruction, darkness, any D word that you could think of that has to do with something negative. And then eventually, at some point, they went from becoming gods of their own domain to becoming bat spirits that serve the greater lords of the underworld. Their jobs were to bring darkness and death to whoever they were tasked with taking, and they were supposed to be gruesome and efficient and scary and all that good stuff. One of my favorite stories that I found about the Camazotz is actually in the Guatemalan Quiche mythology, and it stars these two twins who are apparently very common heroes in that mythology, Hunahpu and Xbalanque. And they encounter a bunch of Camazotz, because Camazotz also went from one singular bat god to being numerous different spirits that were of a species or type. And what happens is these two twins encounter a bunch of the Camazotz while fighting a bunch of trials in the underworld. They hide themselves in their blowguns for protection, but in a moment of curiosity, as it goes silent, Hunahpu pokes his head out to check to see if the sunrise has arrived, and that is why the Camazotz have gone silent, only to find that they had gone silent to trick him into sticking his head out, and for his trouble, one of the bat spirits repays him by plucking off his head and carrying it to a godly ball court so that the gods may play ball with his head. Like you do. Now, like I said, in some folklore, Camazotz are actually gods or a god, not a servant to any other lord. They actually tend to be authorities within themselves. In fact, Camazotz actually was the name of an anthropomorphic man-bat god. When they first found out about him, his first iteration was that Camazotz was his name, and he was often depicted with a sacrificial knife in one hand and a human heart in the other. That's who he was in the very beginning until Guatemalan mythology actually changed him, except for one iteration where some bat guy, he's not specifically called Camazotz, but people think that could be who he was, brokers a deal between man and the god Tohil for fire, and he barters man's waist and armpits for that. I'm not sure that that was a fair trade, and because of that, that is why human sacrifice became the accepted way to essentially pay back the gods for fire. So I don't know if we owe this guy a thanks or like an edible arrangement or what, but that was the story. In the case of my book, I actually decided to kind of merge the two, and my Camazotz is a woman because I felt like it, and she is one of many, but also still considered a god. So I decided to play a little bit of games with the mythology. I thought I could get away with it, seeing as it's such an old mythology. And yeah, that's the fun of it, isn't it? Next up is the Obayifo, and this is probably one of my favorite monsters that I've found. They are witch vampire hybrids. So again, vampire adjacent, not a vampire. The Obayifo come from Ashanti myth, which is probably one of the more popular mythologies that people of the West are familiar with when you talk about African mythology. Obayifo have constantly roving eyes and an obsession with food. And I want to emphasize this part because I want you to know that I am not messing with you. This is real. They also have phosphorescent light that emits from the armpits and the anus. Don't look at me like that. It's real. I swear to God, look it up. I have no idea why it is. I can't think of a situation where it would be useful for me to have phosphorescent light coming from my armpits or my ass, but I didn't make this up. I just found it. Don't shoot the messenger. So the legend likes to go in different directions about the Obayifo, depending on who you ask. To some, they're similar to usual vampires. They suck the blood specifically of children and do it remotely. And they also can damage crops, specifically cacao. But in other cases, they're more like actual witches. They're not an undead. They have an evil spirit inhabiting their body, and the way that you would get rid of the Obayifo is by somehow getting the evil spirit out. Unfortunately, that could involve some of the horrible ways that people used to treat witches back in the day, but that in some legends is the way that you remove an Obayifo. So like a lot of folklore, sadly, the Obayifo comes more from fear and a need to explain things than it does from just fun stories. You really saw a lot of people kind of going at each other's throats and accusing one another of being Obayifo during times of famine, crop death, malaria, and other epidemics. Those were the times where people would point fingers at neighbors that they didn't like and accuse them of being Obayifo. I have to say that I feel like all you have to do is ask the person to drop their pants, and if their ass ain't glowing, then it's not them. But what do I know? Really, the big thing back in the day was just, it was also a way to stop your children from following strange lights into the forest, but otherwise it was really often used as a way to go after your neighbors. Overall, there was no one right way to vanquish an Obayifo. You could, like I said, use any of the old ways that people used to damage or punish or suss out a witch. But you could also find people who just said that it was about exile and ignoring the person and kicking them out of the community. Overall, at the very base of the Obayifo legend, and I could do a whole video just on this, you really see a lot about how folklore can sometimes be used in desperation and in fear to make people feel as if they have a grasp on the situation, and how it could be used to punish those who didn't fit in or who angered the wrong person. And that kind of is very well explained in the theories, especially where exile is suggested as a way to vanquish an Obayifo. That was in a situation where the worst thing that anybody could possibly imagine would be not having a community anymore. So, got a little dark there, sorry. If it helps, I do have an Obayifo in my book. That's all I'm gonna tell you, but I did enjoy writing about him. There was a lot of fun there. So, yeah, when you get a chance to see it, hopefully you'll have a lot of fun recognizing him in those pages. I will tell you that I use the term glow stick ass, so obviously I am a poet, and you should be looking forward to reading plenty of very artistic prose. Finally, we are heading to the Dominican Republic to go say hello to the Ciguapa. Just do it from far away, especially if you are a man. Like the Yakaruna, the Ciguapa has backwards feet, but unlike the Yakaruna, the only thing about her that appears to be anything other than human is her feet. Otherwise, she looks like a real woman, like a regular human woman. And she's generally known to be alluring with long hair, gorgeous body, anything that would make a local man want to take her into the woods and spend many fun hours with her before she goes full mantis and kills him directly after. The Ciguapa actually seems to be the Dominican Republic's answer to the European sirens and mermaids, basically women who hang out around water and lead men to their doom. Not gonna get into it again because I've already ranted about it, but how tiring is it that so many folkloric stories are about women leading men to their doom just by being pretty? So the interesting thing about the Ciguapa when it comes to folklore is that usually when I look up a monster in folklore, I can at least find one story, or I can find a lot of shared community history, stories that were passed down about these monsters. But when I looked up that kind of thing about the Ciguapa, I pretty much only found anecdotal evidence. People saying that they ran into one while they were on a family trip or while they were camping. And it seems very much like the Ciguapa is one of the few folkloric creatures that I have found that has not only stuck around and beat the test of time, but that has also found a way to transcend from just story to kind of like my cousin's maid's brother's uncle's little sister's little league coach's taxi driver once saw one on a fishing trip. It's kind of a crazy thing because I don't think I've run into that with a lot of monsters out there. And for the record, yes, there is a Ciguapa in my book. Her name is Leosha, and she was probably one of the hardest to write because I didn't want to go for alluring. I wanted to go for kind of scary and creepy and dangerous. And so I had to somehow balance what she is according to myth and legend with what I wanted her to be. But I think in the end I nailed it. And I say that from a totally unbiased perspective. So anyway, this was a blast. I had a lot of fun teaching you about these three monsters. If you had a favorite, drop it in the comments. If you have another one that you want me to research and talk about, please drop it in the comments. I love talking about this kind of thing with people. I don't run into a lot of people who love it as much as I do. So if you have anything that you would like to share or want to talk to me about, hit me up. I love it. And with that, looking forward to seeing you guys more in the new year. Hope you had an amazing holiday, and I'll see you in the next one.